IBI confirms that generally, the life expectancy for a victim of a stranger abduction is very short.
Stephanie Crane was just 9 years old when she left her local bowling alley in Challis, Idaho, and never made it home.
Stephanie was last seen walking from the Challis Lanes bowling alley toward Challis High School. Back then, there was no such thing as an Amber Alert.
Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, fair use is permitted for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. What started as an ordinary October day in 1993 turned into a mystery that still haunts her town. Stephanie Lynn Crane was born on September 28, 1984, to parents Sandy and Ben Crane. The oldest of 4 children, Stephanie grew up with her family in the mountain town of Challis, Idaho. Stephanie was described as a tomboy who preferred being outdoors over staying inside. She shared an especially close bond with her father, who often took her fishing, hiking, and many outdoor activities. October 11th, 1993 started out like any other fall day in Challis. Stephanie attended school that morning at Challis Elementary School. After school, Stephanie and her classmates headed to the town's bowling alley for their elementary school bowling league. They bowled 3 games and ordered food while they were there. Sometime between 4 and 4:30 p.m., Stephanie's mother Sandy stopped by the bowling alley to pay for Stephanie's games and give her money for a snack. Sandy spoke to her daughter briefly before leaving and returning home. Around 4:45 p.m., the bowling league wrapped up for the day. The group of kids finished with their games and snacks and began heading home, some walking, some getting picked up by parents, and others hanging around for a bit longer before leaving. Around that time, a friend offered Stephanie a ride home, but the 9-year-old declined. Stephanie explained that she'd forgotten her backpack at the school soccer field and was going back to retrieve it. Stephanie began making her way toward the field on foot. As she approached Highway 93, a parent spotted her waiting to cross the road, heading in the direction of the school field. This would be the last known sighting of 9-year-old Stephanie Lynn Crane. Stephanie's parents had set her curfew for 5 p.m., so when she didn't arrive home by then, her parents, Sandy and Ben, grew concerned and called Stephanie's grandmother, Hazel, who lived nearby, but she hadn't seen Stephanie either. The grandmother even asked neighborhood boys who had been playing outside if they'd seen her granddaughter, but none of them had. You see, on a normal day, after leaving the soccer field, Stephanie would have either stopped by her grandmother's house next door or walked straight home, just a short 500-yard walk from the bowling alley, but not on this day. At about 8:15 p.m., Sandy Anderson, Stephanie's mother, rushed into the Custer County Sheriff's Office to report her daughter Stephanie missing. The Custer County Sheriff's Office began searching immediately after learning Stephanie was missing.
The Custer County Sheriff's Office, along with Search and Rescue and the Volunteer Fire Department, looked for Stephanie into the early morning hours. The next day, over 300 people, along with tracking dogs, searched for Stephanie.
Flyers were posted around town, and officers interviewed the children who had been at the bowling alley with her that day. During these conversations, several children mentioned seeing a suspicious yellow truck in the area and a man watching them. The man was described as a white male, around 37 years old, and approximately 5'10" and weighing about 175 pounds. A composite sketch was created in hopes that someone might recognize him, but unfortunately, the sketch led to no new leads for Stephanie's disappearance. Stephanie's family was never the same after her disappearance. In 1994, her parents divorced over the strain the case had caused. Sandy moved to Reno, Nevada, leaving Ben to raise the children on his own. In 1997, attention turned to a hunter named Keith Hescock. He was alleged to have been in the Challis area around the time Stephanie disappeared and was known to drive a yellow pickup truck, similar to the ones the children at the bowling alley described as out of place during the time of her disappearance. Stephanie's grandparents also believe Hescock was the weird guy with the yellow truck who had camped next to them near Twin Peaks, Idaho, just the weekend before Stephanie went missing. Police arrested and questioned Hescock, but ultimately nothing came of it. Sadly, Stephanie's mother, Sandy Anderson, passed away on August 14, 1997 due to blood clots in her lungs. 5 years later, in June 2002, Keith Hescock resurfaced after committing a horrific crime involving a young girl in the same town of Idaho as Stephanie's disappearance.
There was another suspect, Keith Glenn Hescock. He was a suspect in another missing persons case. He was in a hunting in Challis area when Crane disappeared and his truck was seen in the area. Hescock died in a confrontation with police after he shot a police officer, a police dog, and then turned the gun on himself.
Even in passing, Keith Hescock still remains a suspect in Stephanie Crane's disappearance.
30 years ago today, Sandy Crane walked into the Custer County Sheriff's Office to report her 9-year-old daughter, Stephanie, was missing. Back then, there was no such thing as an Amber Alert. So to get the word out, the Sheriff's Office relied on volunteers to hand out flyers and stuff envelopes to be mailed nationwide, but there is still no clear evidence of what actually happened to her.
On October 11, 2012, exactly 19 years to the day since Stephanie Crane didn't come home, her father, Ben Crane, passed away from a heart attack. It was heartbreaking and symbolic end to nearly 2 decades of searching, hoping, and grieving. To this day, Stephanie Crane's disappearance lingers, not just as a mystery, but as something deeply felt by those in Idaho Falls and beyond. It's the kind of case that stays with you, not because it's unsolved, but because an innocent little girl never came home. And this is why we are sharing this case on Lavender Files.
The Custer County Sheriff's Office says her case is still open and will remain open until she is found.
Stephanie Crane went missing from Challis, Idaho on October 11, 1993. Stephanie was 9 years old and was last seen headed towards the school's soccer field after leaving the town's bowling alley. At the time of Stephanie's disappearance, she was 4'2" and weighed between 65 and 85 pounds. She had curly brown hair, blue eyes, freckles, a scar near her right eye, and a noticeable gap between her upper front teeth. If you have any information about Stephanie's case, please contact the Custer County Sheriff's Office at 208-879-2232.
Anonymous tips can also be reported to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-843-5678.
If you believe in keeping these cases present and bringing awareness to each story, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It helps more people find these stories and helps keep them from being forgotten. And if you'd like to know when new videos go up, you can also tap the bell icon and YouTube will notify you when we post new videos here at Lavender Files. This case really hits home for me. Bowling in the 90s is a core memory from my childhood, and I remember that same feeling of freedom, walking short distances around my small town without ever thinking twice. We thought we were safe, but stories like Stephanie's remind me just how unsafe we really were and how quickly that freedom could be shattered. What makes this case even more unsettling is that police didn't label it as a runaway or just a missing child. They classified it as an abduction. That alone speaks volumes. So many cases back then were brushed off or not taken seriously, but they knew from the start someone took her. Stephanie wasn't just a face on a flyer. She was bright, confident, adventurous, and she loved her dad. I can relate to that, and honestly, I believe her dad passed from a broken heart. It's heartbreaking to know that neither of her parents ever got the answers they deserved about their daughter Stephanie. And then there's Hescock. He was violent, he was in the area, and he had already proven he was capable of harming young girls. But now he's gone, and if he was involved in Stephanie's disappearance, he took that truth with him. That part haunts me. It feels like justice slipped through the cracks, just like Stephanie did. The early 90s just weren't ready for this kind of crime. No Amber Alerts, no real-time alerts on phones or social media. Just flyers, late-night news, and word of mouth. It was all too slow in my opinion, and someone took advantage of that slowness. Someone took advantage of a little girl's trust and a town's sense of safety. And even now, I believe someone knows what happened to Stephanie. Challis is a small town in Idaho. It always has been. Somebody saw something. Somebody remembers something. I just hope that one day the truth finally comes out, and Stephanie's family gets the justice they've waited far too long for. They deserve that. This is the story of Stephanie Lynn Crane. Thank you for listening.